Welcome to IP Talk Brand Insights, a quarterly discussion on the intersection of brand strategy and intellectual property. This series is presented by Virtual Patent Gateway, and our moderator today is Ashley Cheung, VPG Principal and Founder. Ashley is joined by Alyssa Gangaram, artist and member of the Urban Raccoons Creative Hub team, Aparna Wattal, partner at Halford's IP, and Francis Winkler, manager of IP operations and innovation programs at Everpure. And with that, I'll pass things over to Ashley to get started.
Thank you, Kaylin. Well, guess what? She did my job, so I'm good to go.
Yep.
But okay, well, thank you so much. Welcome. I was so excited. I have been so excited to talk about this particular one. But before we get started, I am going to tee this up with having each one of you to talk a little bit about what you do, and one fun fact that nobody knows about you. So when nobody knows about you, you could make it up. Let's start with Alyssa.
I'll start with me. Oh, okay, no problem.
Yes, of course.
Well, it's nice to see you, everyone here. It's nice to be here today. Ashley, thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited for this conversation. My name is Alyssa Gangaram. I'm a filmmaker and artist. I have been illustrating my whole life, and in recent years, I have been exploring filmmaking. And I guess that ties into my fun fact that I'm the director of my first short film, Children of Light, from my studio NUMA. And I just finished a documentary as well. So it's been really fun exploring all kinds of media recently.
And then she is also the illustrator for my two books. What are they?
The Leadership Catalyst and Transform Life.
Yes, if Amazon would ever stop
when
having the AI,
stops
not like picking on us on our cover and spine. We've kind of submitted for the 7th time now.
Right.
And so at some point I will finish like my 8th book, and then this book might come out. I don't know. Anyway, Thank you, Alyssa. Let me see who I should pick on next. Aparna, let's have you talk about yourself, what you do, and one fun fact that nobody knows about you.
Amazing. Hi, everybody. So good to be here with all of you. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be part of this discussion, which is very close to my heart. I am Aparna Wattal, a partner at Halford's IP. We're a specialist IP firm. I've been practicing in the field of IP for over 15 years, and there's been so much change, especially with the advent of AI. You know, it's a very different landscape we're looking at today. So very excited to be talking about that. A fun fact about me that most people don't know is I love bungee jumping. I have gone bungee jumping consecutively, right, one after the other. And I can't wait to go bungee jumping with my little girls when they grow up. So, yeah.
Wow.
I love that.
I could never tell. You can never judge someone, judge the book by its cover. Wow, bungee jumping. But I mean, there's probably so many places in Australia to jump, right?
And some of the most beautiful places in Australia and New Zealand.
So yes.
Very spoiled.
And she is also a chapter leader for CHIPS Network Australia, CHIPS Australia and New Zealand chapter.
That's correct. So I'm the co-chair for CHIPS Australia and New Zealand. The organization, as some of you may already know, is all about promoting the next gen of women in IP, law, and policy. And we're very excited to see our membership in Australia and New Zealand grow in the last 2-3 years.
That's perfect. Now, Francis has been waiting, so let's turn to you.
Yes.
Yeah. I am,
guys or ladies.
awesome. I am a bit of both of those things, actually, and I didn't realize it until just now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am like both of these ladies. So I am a creative person inside of a process person's career. That is my definition of me, because I have always been creative, but as a system builder and people connector, it gets complicated because that's a difficult place to channel your creativity. You have all this creativity. And so what I do is actually introduce creativity into legal settings, into IP, into innovation, where you give it space to breathe. You give those ideas space to breathe. You give people a chance to join and listen. That's really what I believe that I build and what my purpose is. And so I don't have a title per se. I just have a purpose. And creativity is probably it.
Wow.
Love that, Francis.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
So a little bit about me. I'm Ash Cheung. I do a lot of things, and I do have bread and butter. That's filing, PTAB, and ex parte re-exam. I didn't, the fun fact about me is that I like to dabble in a lot of things. Creativity is one of the things that I did not realize until after I started VPG, because I didn't have time, too many deadlines. But when Frances was talking about the things that she was talking about, I really find that no wonder we get along so well. We go out and race together because we kind of like very similar in many ways. So my art is writing, and I cannot draw for the life of me, but I know illustrators. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But I think that is really amazing. For example, like a couple of my books, it's like I just turned the PTAB Bar Association, or the PTAB practice, and I changed the ecosystem to be PETAB instead of PTAB. And then one of the things is because the subject is it can be so dense and it's so intimidating to a lot of people. So I wanted to make sure that it integrates arts and some fun, and for readers and learn about the topic. So on that note, we are going to talk about creativity, creators, and IP rights today. Let's do disclaimer. We have whatever we say here is only our personal opinion. This is not affiliated with any of our employers. And also anything that we said does not constitute legal opinion. Even for our training here, it is purely for educational purposes. So we're going to talk about we're going to have three different segments. The first one is who owns the art. The second one is what creatives need to know when they have to protect their universe. And then what about the future of human creativity? And by that, you already know that we're going to have some discussion of AI. So are you ready, ladies?
Yep.
Section 1, who owns the art? I'm going to start with this question and throw it out there, and I will ask a couple of you to kind of offer us your insight. What does it mean to be a creator today when we sit at the intersection of original work, AI tools, and IP ownership? Aparna, let's start with you.
Ashley, I actually think about this a lot because I sit at this very particular intersection. I'm a lawyer who works a lot with creatives, which means I do get to watch them pour their energy and their hearts into something beautiful, and then I have to come in and tell them all the ways it could go wrong. So a very precarious position to be in. But what does it mean to be a creator today? I think the landscape, as I said at the start, has changed completely for creators in the last 5 years. AI is predominantly one of the pieces that has changed everything for people. It used to be that the biggest IP risk for a creator was someone copying your work. I think now the risk is more existential. did you even make it? Can you call it yours? And can you then prove it that it's yours? And if you prove it, then is the law still catching up or has caught up that it can protect what's yours? And if you can protect it, do you have ability or control to license it? So I think it's really complicated, the whole landscape, IP ownership. And these are all different questions right now for AI-assisted work that the law does not have clear answers to at the moment. It has murky answers at best. But it's not all doom and gloom. I think what excites me very much, genuinely at this time, is that creators who can understand this landscape early will have a massive advantage in what's to come. IP is not just a defensive tool, it's increasingly going to be a business asset for creators. So I think I'm not a creator, so I think that's my take on what does it mean to be a creator today, working with creators, but perhaps the other two creators can speak from their very personal angle. And Ashley, you too, because I mean, you're a creator too, so.
Well, I create a lot of stuff. So thank you. That was very insightful. Thank you, Francis.
I think that for me, creativity isn't about just making things. Like we think of traditional art or artists as just making things, which is incredible. It's about making these decisions now of what to do, of what to do with AI. If you're creating with AI, if you're creating art with AI, you make all the decisions that go into that artistic creativity. You don't just hand it over and say, make this thing, and it comes out as a creative opportunity for you to build on. That's what AI does for me. It gives me opportunities to build on my past creativity because it knows history. It knows what I did before because I built it to understand that. So being a creator with AI means that you collaborate, you give it direction. You are always the judgment piece of that creation. So that's what creativity with AI means to me. And that's basically what I've learned in the past month.
Great. Alyssa, you true creator here. You were a baby.
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like I haven't really existed in like the career, like creative career, where there wasn't talks of AI. I graduated from college only last year, and I've been freelancing for a handful of years now. Early on, it wasn't too much of a thought in my mind because my thought was, how do I just get established as an artist a little bit? How do I find clients? Just like the real basics of how does even the business side work. But now that I'm a few years into it, now AI is like, you can't go anywhere without seeing it. And it's like Aparna said, it is leading us to more existential questions. Who am I as a creator? Where do I stand? And I think as a young creator, I'm forced to think about that and also decide where I stand and decide what my work and almost like what my personal brand is very early on. Because especially in a time where anybody can put on a camera, anybody can now take any AI and generate something and just churn out things. What makes you different as a creator? What makes you stand out? And where do you even want to go with your creativity? I think that's some big questions that anybody has to ask them now when they decide to do anything creative.
I see. Wow. Can you believe she's only 21?
The business side of art is not
a sentence, but let me go ahead and try.
The business side of art is weird because all of the artists I know are just independent creatives, so they don't have a business. They just have their art.
Right.
So that's the part that I see. And so the business of art is increasingly interesting.
So from my perspective, I think there's like maybe for the fact, in terms of creative, I think I'm very creative because otherwise I would not have go out and started a virtual consultancy for paralegals. Right? And then during the, and we created on-demand courses. I work like 95% with attorneys. And then it's only the others, those are like what pays me too. But one of the things that I wanted to introduce a different perspective is that instead of looking at like really protecting it, actively protecting it, I come from an angle that how not to get sued.
Yeah.
How do you actually, as a creator, how do I actually protect my IP rights and be able to claim it as your own and not to receive that? Did I actively protect it by filing a trademark or filing, copyrights to make sure that I would not get that cease and desist letter? Because that's the CND that I don't want to get, right? So I think from that, it does infuse with the business perspective in terms of protecting, not necessarily actively protecting it, but not getting sued. So that's how I usually, when I have to make a decision, it's like, oh, do I want to trademark? It's not that I really want my name to be out there and anything, but how in this days, Taylor Swift, I'm no Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, and all of these things that we live in a litigious society. People sue. That's just the fact.
Yeah.
So that's where I think, like, in terms of from a creative point of view, especially as a business owner, I just try to do my best to do due diligence and make sure that I don't get that cease and desist letter. Okay. Next question. As a creator, yes. Yeah. Okay.
No, I was just gonna.
Yeah.
Just wondering, talking to the creatives, what are you guys making right now, and how has your relationship with AI tools shaped or complicated that creative process for you?
Who do you want to go first?
Well, you start, Ashley. If that's
Okay. Well, what am I making right now? Right now, I'm trying to pass the Amazon test. I believe that they have AI reviewing because when you submit, so when you do self-publishing, you submit to Amazon or other publishers, and what they would do is there is a clause in there that basically, did you at any point use AI? And they'll ask you to double check. You said no, whatever, go through, and you submit your manuscript, you submit your cover and spine, and then you approve, and then you're trying to get it published, and they said within 72 hours they will give you an approval. And this is my third self-publishing book. I don't know why this one is fourth, and I don't know why this one is so difficult. So we follow the specification, and then they didn't like the spine, so it kept giving me an error. So I have to keep. This is the 7th time that I'm approving it. There should be somewhere. I am 95% sure that they are using AI to QC this, right? And I try to look for a human support, and I not finding.
Oh no!
And there's not one single thing, because even when you're site checking, I support attorneys. So if I disagree with, like, say, if the attorney disagree with me, for example, it's like, this is not what you do. I give the rule, and then they come back and veto it. You should have a checkbox. Basically said that I bear the responsibility. I know what you're saying, but I will accept the responsibility. There's no checkbox like that. So I'm on the 7th time and keep going at it, and I don't know what right now I'm very frustrated with this, and I think that I probably write another 7 books before this one will be like approved by AI.
Keep trying.
That's my current frustration with AI. But I don't want to hold I don't want to take all over. So how about Alyssa?
Yeah.
Well, Ashley knows my general stance on AI is it's not really involved in my process at all. And
Gosh.
I take the same view of that when I'm working on my team with our short film. That's been the main project, and I let them know from the earliest interviews and the earliest chats, like, hey, this is not something that's part of anything we're doing on the creative side, especially just because. And I think the director of the Backrooms, the new movie, Kane Parsons, I think he said it best, how when he sees maybe like a filmmaker using some type of generative AI in their films, that means they, are saying this is allowed to be arbitrary. So how many more things are arbitrary? And the thing that I value a lot in art and creativity is intentionality. That's why I love animation, even though it's the most painstaking and slow thing in the world. Like for the creative side, I feel like there's so much meaning, and every little thing on screen, whether it's like a little rock, that rock was designed, and there's probably 3 meetings just about that single rock. Like, it is so intentional that everything is on screen to tell a story. So for me, that's not part of my process at all, and I kind of just like let it be something that's flowing in the background, like those conversations. Of course I'm listening, of course I'm learning, of course I'm trying to see what's happening as a result and where it seems to be going. But for my personal process, it's not very much a factor, I guess.
Got it. Amazing. Yeah.
That's funny because it was a factor that I didn't know that I had to consider, because I didn't know how to do any of this before a month ago. I created a comic book. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm sorry, I stole your line. I carried it over actually because it's very interesting that hearing your process is like seeing my process was creating with AI. It literally helped me build the infrastructure for my comic book. It helped me build the guidelines. It helped me build the character outlines, their purpose in my story. So all of that was my judgment, but it was very intentionally entered into AI as an aspect of my creativity that I wanted it to include in my story. So what AI actually allowed me to do was explore direction. Because I didn't know what I wanted to create. I just knew I wanted to create a comic book. And so it helped me gather all of the lessons and put them together. So that's how.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Great question and great responses. As a creator, when does something feels truly yours, and where's that line for you when AI is part of the workflow for so many platforms out there? And this one I'll direct to Alyssa and Francis.
First, is going to go ahead first.
Oh, me. What did could you ask again? I'm so sorry.
No.
Okay. Wait, I wasn't listening.
I may not have Caitlin's voice, but I can repeat. As a creator, when does something feel truly yours? And where's that line for you when AI is part of the workflow for so many platforms out there? Because there's a lot of things that's already integrated with AI. Even if you intentionally do not use it, you don't know what the the software and what exactly did they infuse with AI. So what does it mean to be truly yours?
I think when I have my comic book in my hand like this tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow, is going to be the moment that I realize my work has been for this, for a physical output to come from all of the things that I did with AI. Yes, it's generating images and I can see them with my eyes, but feeling something that you create that is printed, that's when I know this is what I created. And that is the joy that I cannot wait for tomorrow. I have champagne. My husband knows.
We should have a virtual party.
I know. God, oh my gosh. And
great idea, actually.
I am so excited to get that artifact. It's the artifact. It's the physical thing you put into the world that I believe is the art that I make, But I'm old school. So I don't know, Alyssa.
Wow. Well, I have this right here actually. It's like, it's so funny. It's almost the exact thing and then the exact opposite of what you said. I'm a digital artist first and foremost, and this is like my work from the last like 4 years in one book. But I never felt like this was when it was like mine or the real thing. I felt like, through all the pieces, pulling up the file and deciding, okay, these lines will go here, and spending like that 18 to 20 hours on this single image, the process and every minor decision being made from the minute the canvas, like even choosing how big the canvas is going to be, like, is it going to be a wide shot? Is it going to be vertical? All of that. I think that was when I was like, this is my piece and I'm excited to see what this looks like. But part of it is the process is when it's mine, I guess.
I love this perspective because I am old school, seriously old school. And Alyssa is the new age. And I think that gives us perspective. That is so exciting.
So may I show you guys something? Look at this
Puzzle.
and look at this. So this
Oh.
is that Alyssa illustrated. But, part of it as a business person, and one of the things is like in the litigation space when, in legal, everything is like so tense and so demanding. And puzzles is an amazing way of getting people to unwind. And I have friends that love puzzles. So this is like the chapter 1 of my book. And then I was like, oh, let me figure out exactly how to do this. And this particular art, she created it, but I sat there and I don't know how some of my Gen Z can stand me sometimes, but I can be so nitpicking. I said, I want to do this. And you see like the raccoons, and then
the
it
ones
has
in the
like
back.
all my dreams. So I don't know how to do it, but I always try to support young artists when it comes to giving them opportunities and to be visible, to be seen, and also a little bit of money to help them get to the next stage. So
I do want to make quickly just that observation that Alyssa, you're certainly, the next gen in that sense, and Francis, like you're saying that you're more old school, but you both are sitting at such opposite ends of the spectrum of creativity in a way where, Francis, you're the one who's actually using AI more actively in the creative process, whereas Alyssa, you're not. So to hear when you consider it to be yours is phenomenal. Like, it's just a quick observation.
Yeah, it's pretty
how we've got
interesting.
such diverse perspectives on this. That's amazing.
But that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So let's get to this next segment. We have 2 more segments to go through. And of course, I'm like very structured when it comes to stuff like this. So make sure that I get this, like I'm a timekeeper. What creatives need to know about protecting their universe? We're gonna lean in a little bit more on a partner on this one. But before that, Francis, you talk about building your universe through AI. I'm understanding what a partner's take on this large language model training, things that potentially be stealing artists' work, allegedly. Especially when it comes to IP risk that creative may not be thinking about. So whatever you're inputting, like more on you, because Alyssa is like claiming that she's not doing too much of that. So when you are putting stuff in there to generate images, whatever, you're inevitably training that large managed language LLM, and to eventually kind of some of the risk would be, some of your IP rights may be jeopardized. So what are your thoughts about that?
I have guidelines. I have rules. I have personal rules. And
you got standard.
Number one, I have standards and integrity. So that's what I put into my comic. That's what I put into AI, standards and integrity. This is what you should never do. Number one, and I think I said this on our first podcast about AI creation guidelines. You give it the things you would never do. I will never use a and I'm going to say Lego, but not in the way that I'm excluding Lego specifically from my book. It is generic building blocks only. It is a cast of figures. It doesn't have anything to do with Lego minifigs. The fact that it looks a little like Legos are generic. They're in public. It's kind of fair use. It's for educational purposes. I'm never selling my product. I'm only giving it away for those purposes. So fair use, you have to consider what you're using. Obviously, you exclude everything that is a brand name or a brand anything, a brand representation, trade dress, blah, blah, blah. I can't speak to the legal, but Aparna can. So I put guidelines in as a first measure. I don't let it deviate from them. It always says never Lego, never, whatever I want to restrict its usage to, I tell it. I will always put those in there. There's never a time I will not put them in there. And that is just
that's part of your prompt.
That's part of my process. And it's a guideline I give it in the project before I even start. I have a document.
Interesting. Alyssa.
I think guidelines, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say guidelines are a great starting point, but one of the problems that we have with AI, generative AI as a technology, is that it operates as a black box. So there is a very high degree of arbitrariness that despite giving it those guidelines, we actually don't know what it's pulling, what it's doing. Mm-hmm. And that's even, data scientists, LLM, programmers, they've not been able to figure that out. So it's definitely something that as creators, I think it's a good idea to have those guidelines to be able to then dispel any allegations that you have been involved in training it the wrong way or you're doing the wrong thing. But I don't know if that will be sufficient to absolve any actual output issues that may still arise.
And that brings up the question, who owns that output issue? Do I, or is it AI?
Only time will tell. So, Alyssa, back to you. As a working illustrator, how do you think about protecting your style, your illustrations, your portfolio in an era where AI can mimic your any visual style?
I feel like that's such a difficult one because we're so it's all so new still. And there's not very many laws in place to really protect that. The copyright is in the air when AI is involved and stuff. So for me, I would say, if AI could, and it can, imitate my style, then what makes it worth me continuing to draw? For me, that's because I'm like, this is my purpose. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to connect with people. And even more than that, from almost like the brand perspective, when AI can hypothetically copy or mimic or something, with your style, then what makes you as an individual stand out at that point? For me, that's when I made the decision to be like, okay, I'm not just going to post still images of my work. I'm actually going to get involved. I'm going to speak to the camera. I'm going to talk to my audience and talk about my opinions and the things that I care about in my faith and everything that makes me me, because all of that then is injected into the work that I end up creating. So that opens up even more means of connection between me and the people that also like my work or want to have a conversation about the same things that I want to have conversations about, because we relate in all these things. They get to see the behind the scenes things. I can talk about how I got from point A to point B. And I think that's what it means for me to firstly be an artist and be a creator, going back to the earliest question, but also that's how you protect your style, by being yourself, because AI can produce things, but it can't be a person or have a soul.
Thank you.
Again, she's only 21. Let's go to next question because we are a little bit tight on time. What are some practical things a creator should do today to protect their IP before they need a lawyer? And I could talk a little bit about, trademarking, instant IP. But Aparna, do you want to chime in from the legal perspective first?
Sure. So I think trademarking is certainly very important. But going to Francis, what you actually mentioned early on was the decisions that you have to make. So that's what the creative process looks like. With the prompting, you're constantly making those creative decisions on what needs to be tweaked, what needs to be added, what needs to be changed. I strongly recommend for you to be able to have that claim to ownership, because I sure want to come to that launch party of that comic book. But I also want to remind you to have to read the terms and conditions and make sure your ownership is not in dispute in any way. So keep a very solid log of all the creative decisions that you're making along the way, because pretty much where all copyright offices are standing at the moment, and this could change, is that you really do need that human involvement, substantial human involvement, to be able to claim your copyright protection. So for you to have that ability, it's very important that you're keeping a good record of your decision-making process. Ashley, you're going to talk about from a brand identity perspective and from the trademarks perspective, because for instance, for your comic book, Francis, you might have come up with a very distinctive color palette for your comic book universe. You might have used certain kinds of visual cues, visual language, certain characters. Those themselves, like the look and feel of your comic book, may need to be protected quite separately from any copyright protection that you may have, and that's where trademarks could step in. So you really need to think about different forms of IP that you could utilize to have in your arsenal to go should the model itself use your comic book universe to train and build others, or if anybody else tries to use it. But you want to have not just rely on one copyright IP right to protect it, but all of these other ancillary rights to be able to take action if necessary.
That's great. So I'm going to talk about brand identity and trademark from an instant IP from a non-attorney perspective, literally just as a business person. So when for the most part, I have been only a patent litigation paralegal. So it's not until after I started VPG that I started to have to think about trademarking my service. But attorneys' fees are expensive. So when I first started, I was like, I check around, and some people were like trying to solicit being like my attorney. And I look at it, the fees, I was like, I can read, I can do some filing, but I need to have some opinions and advice from people. So I have friends that work as trademark specialists. And they just basically give me the advice that, what you could do is to apply on your own, because you know how to do filing. It's just a different system. And then if you get a office action, then you hire an attorney.
Yeah.
Or you can just respond yourself. So that's the advice that I got, and it saved myself thousands of dollars. I did get my first office action, and I drafted the response, but I had an attorney to look it over. And then after that, it becomes at some point, it becomes not so much of whether you can do it, but whether it's worth your time to do it. So it became a commercial, like a business decision. And before I was trying to save a couple $1,000s, but now it's more like, is this worth my time if I go out and basically pitch a client, do whatever it is, and this is something that I would delegate to my trademark attorney, and then it would come. I don't have to go through what I have to do with the cover and spine, which is increasingly frustrating. But then there's also, trademark is like, there's like class of service class, and for VPG is I register for a service mark. And then when it comes to brand identity, at some point on March 17, I actually got my trademark for Ash Cheung. I actually applied it. And so it was issued on March 17. And it's not so much of me thinking of going to like do all of this thing with my trademark, but more of preventing people from like saying that I am infringing their products. So it's or services. So it's much more of a defensive behavior for on my part when I do that. And there are some things called like there's something called instant IP, and it's a blockchain services. I was interviewed by the owner and the author, Carrie Oberrunner and Katie Rubino, and is a Boston life science IP attorney, and she is really amazing. And then she told me about this particular process. It's called instant IP, and basically you just catalog whatever you have created. So I have not done that yet, but it seems like that I might actually try it. This is not an endorsement. I might actually try it because it's like $100, and then it's like instant versus it takes probably 7 months at the very least to get a trademark issue. Like, so I have another one that is going on right now, but I'm not going to repeat it on public, in the public life and until it's ready. So anyway, those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about. So let's go to, do you guys have any questions? Because we only have about 15 minutes remaining. Let's talk about the future of human creativity. Francis, Francis, do you have any question?
I just think that it's all fascinating. Just the perspectives that we have here, listening to each angle make the future seem so possible. Like
It's scary too.
and a little scary, but I take it day by day. We can't get scared all the time. I think the future of human creativity has options. I think it's an option for people who don't actively participate in creating but want to support people who create. That's one avenue. There's more avenues for people like me who love art and who want to experience it in areas like legal, where it can expand people's thinking, where it gives that space for people to consider, hey, maybe this is an option. Maybe being creative in legal is what's missing. I don't know. I think it is creative in being creative, in innovation is natural. So, and we're in legal. So why couldn't it be the catalyst for everything we do in innovation? I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts.
So one of the things that I want to kind of like touch upon on is that, so yesterday we were running this particular workshop, and it has people from Australia to Hong Kong, Wisconsin, New York, everywhere. But I was talking to you guys before we started, and I'm trying to prepare like a 30 days action plan. So I was curious, and I plug it into Claude, and I also asked it to reference my 2 books because I want to know what is actually out there. And I asked them to actually give some page references in terms of the accuracy of citation. It is not too bad.
It's not terrible.
But then I did not want it to be completely just an AI product. I don't know that I don't believe I can claim any copyright. So this is going to be completely like educational. And I want that to be something that I contribute to the workshop participants. So I was like working on adding different things to make it sort of at least semi Ashley, when we talk about brand identity. I think creative fiction is my brand. I like writing, but I've been in the legal system for so long, and I was like, what if that we have some really nice color pastel and some illustration? Just make the reading so much easier. So I created this. I had different people help me like look at it. Francis, you okay? And then I asked for the participants' approval to send them the final product tomorrow. Oh, okay. This will get on. So anyway, we'll wait for Francis to come on.
You are.
Is back. So I think that is something that, with AI, when I use them, I just have to know that generally speaking, I will not be able to copyright it. So I will use it for a different purpose, like for the collective good, So anyway, Alyssa, as a working, well, actually, a partner, you call AI a democratizing tool that it gives people without traditional skills access to creative expression. How does that impact artists, in your opinion? And specifically, I'm thinking about the Marvel layoff that use all of these artists to train AI and actually got themselves replaced.
Yeah. Look, I stand by my statement. I do think AI is a democratizing tool, but with a very important asterisk. So yes, AI gives people without traditional artistic training, such as myself, access to creative expression that they couldn't have done before, and that is genuinely powerful. You've got first-generation immigrants who've never had an art class can now visualize their story. A solo entrepreneur, the one-woman band, the one-man band with no budget, they can build a whole brand. They can do their own social media marketing, and that matters because everywhere the economies are tight, budget is tight. But, and this is a big but, democratization, in my view, should not mean a simple transfer of value from artists to tech platforms without due acknowledgement or compensation. So I think that's the part of the piece in this puzzle that we're still trying to work through and figure out. The Marvel situation you mentioned is a perfect example. We also saw with Studio Ghibli, I don't know if you guys had that in the US,
Yes.
but in Australia, it was all the rage, everybody. So, previously when somebody would have had to actually go to those artists to say, hey, can you create me this? Their artwork is already in the system and everybody is just creating Studio Ghibli lookalikes. And these are artists who've spent years developing their skills, who have contributed some of the most valuable IP universes in history, and who were then let go because of in favor of AI tools, having provided the data to actually train those AI tools. And that doesn't feel like democratization. That feels like extraction dressed up in language that is meant to be progressive. And to be honest, like from a legal perspective, I don't think the legal framework has caught up yet. We're seeing negotiations happening in Hollywood regarding artists' rights, what's going to happen. We just don't have clear rules around consent for training data, compensation models, for artists who worked on that data, or liability for the platforms coming out of it when AI reproduces something that's too close to a specific style. So when I say democratization, I mean it can be, but right now the benefits are flowing upwards towards the platforms and costs are flowing downwards towards the artists. And that's the conversation that the IP world at large needs to have on an urgent basis. Yeah.
Even with protection, there's also the enforcement issue. It's always like you could protect all you want. Even if you win in court cases, what about enforcement? How does that actually really work in reality? So on that, I'm going to take this over to the last question of the day. If you could tell every young creative one thing about protecting their work and their identity in this landscape, what would that advice be? Let's start with Alyssa.
I guess my advice would be I wouldn't be taking this from a legal perspective. For more of the artistic perspective, I would say you have to be decisive. You have to decide who you want to be in the artistic space. Maybe, yeah, I don't know how to say this.
It's okay. None of us are as articulate as you anyway. We're maybe a partner and friends, and definitely not me.
I guess I would say it sounds so corny, but you have to be yourself super unashamedly, because if you try to copy anyone, it's the same as just AI almost, because it's a copy of somebody else. So the only way to really stand out, the only way to really, I guess, if the goal is to make it, whatever that means to them in the artistic career, especially on the more literal, like the fine arts, the entertainment arts, indie animation, especially for me, like you have to just tell the stories you want to tell and fully completely go for it. You can't do it half-heartedly anymore. Like there was already such a limited space to be half-hearted about your creative work, but you have to believe it first more than anybody. You have to be your number one fan, and you have to do anything it takes to get it out there, because there's so much noise everywhere else. So just go for it really hard. That's not very, like, it's not anything refined. It's not anything crazy. Just go for it as hard as possible. The worst you can do, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out, and then you try again.
You try again. It's so good. I think Alyssa and I should tag team this entire thing, because what I want to say is
protect your universe.
Don't wait until you know everything. I learned creative direction. I learned visual storytelling. I learned character design, publishing. I learned everything I didn't know 3 weeks ago. I could do it again. And it's because I used AI to learn those skills in 3 weeks that accelerated my creativity. See? So I'm not saying go do AI. Go learn how AI can help you create. Learn how to use it to help you. Don't let it replace your ideas and your big thing. You are the creator. I see that now. I was like, I'm making a book with AI. It wasn't about that. It was about learning all the things that go into making a book. And
okay, let's go to a partner.
Sorry.
Less than 5 minutes.
No, I love what both of you have shared. Completely agree with you. I will add and I think this is coming from a legal perspective. And Ashley, I know you have obtained your IP protection more from a defensive perspective, but what I'd strongly recommend the next gen for creatives to think about and bear in mind is your creativity, anything that you're using, your ideas, all of that ideation process, your decisions, creative decisions at every step with assisted AI, with AI assisted works. Your creativity is your business, and protect it like one from day one. So make sure you're keeping really good records of the creative decision process that you're taking on with AI, and then make sure you go that extra step of actually obtaining registered IP rights. Discuss with an attorney, like Ashley has done with the trademark protection, see if there's any other protection that is worth obtaining, but make sure you've got those rights in your arsenal, because you don't know how you might find your work reproduced through LLM or otherwise in the space that we're in. And it can be very hard stopping others at that stage, and it's probably too late by then. So you want to do the right things from the start.
Yeah, get to know the business early on before you jump headfirst into it.
So my one advice for the youth is that network. You need to network. I mean, sometimes there might be, if you have questions, sometimes attorneys that are very passionate, they might be willing to help you with like organizations, like nonprofit organization. People are willing to give you advice, like short advice, not really legal. I mean, not legal advice, but at least give you a point you in the right direction. So I think that is important. Also AI, I really want to support the young creative. So a lot of decisions that I could actually use, for example, Midjourney and some ChatGPT to create images, I don't for my books for purposes, for that particular purpose. Some other things, if it's not something that is have significant values, I will go ahead and go with that. So that's my thought on that. Let's do the closing final thoughts. First of all, thank you all three of you for being here with us. Can each one of you do a 30 seconds takeaway and one call to action? Let's start with Francis. 30 seconds.
I thought I was creating a innovation comic book, but what I was actually discovering was new ways to participate in innovation. That's
Awesome.
my thinking.
And what's your call to action?
Oh, do it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Go for it. Go hard. Alyssa, no, you next.
Oh, that's hard. I mean, for young creatives, for anybody, enjoy the process. Learn about the things happening, but you don't have to adapt it if it's not part of your creative process. And be who you are, and don't be afraid to start putting your work and yourself out there. Call to action, that's the call to action.
Yeah, okay, you combined it. Aparna.
Look, know that the world will not protect your work for you. The platforms won't, the algorithms won't. The law is there, but not automatically. You need to take the steps to protect your work. It's not a betrayal of your art to go and monetize it, to protect it. So it's an act of respect for it, really. So go ahead, maintain solid records of your creative process, and go ahead and register your IP.
Thank you. And mine, it's going to be use AI to help you create your competitive advantage, but know that you are going to be the one driving it. On that note, we have almost 3 o'clock. What's that for timekeeping?
Aparna's just getting started.
Yeah,
I know.
right.
It's 3 o'clock someday. So, well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that it hasn't hit 3 o'clock yet. But thank you. This has been such an amazing discussion. Thank you.
What an amazing discussion. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Ashley, for moderating. Thank you, Alyssa and Francis, for just lovely inputs. I have really enjoyed hearing from both of you. So it's such different creative processes. And I think that really covers such a broad spectrum of where people are sitting, where creators are sitting at the moment in the game. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.